Sales training day. I'm going to try to go over something I think is very important. It is the process of the development of a salesman. This does hold in a number of areas. It holds in sports. It holds in management. But the area where I see it most defined is sales. And I want to go over it. A man begins life and he is trained. We are not pre-programmed. Some will make case you are, to a certain extent you are, but honestly, nature versus nurture, nature is almost irrelevant. Culture, nurture, training, you're the product of the choices you make. You're the product of the opportunities you were given, and thus the choice is relevant to be able to be made. These set who you are. You are taught and encouraged and trained to have certain personality traits. They go back with your culture. Irish people are angry. It's not in their friggin' blood, people, trust me. You take an Irish person and all his Irish heritage of blood and you raise him with a very gentle, quiet Chinese couple in Shanghai, and he's going to grow up a very gentle, quiet Chinese person that looks like an Irishman. It's the culture, it's the placement, it's the choices, it's the heritage, it's the going along. That's why an old-born salesman, well, if you learn to be charismatic, if you learn to be a storyteller, you learn to be a little bit of a salesman. That comes from. Here's the word I want to use. And I think I just misspelled it as I always do, but intuition. Intuition. When an animal does something, if you like this word better, might have misspelled that as well. Instinct. Intuition and instinct. When a salesman begins, when you get your first sales job, you're scared, you're nervous, you're nipping out on instinct and you're getting there. But as you start to learn the areas, you start to get just a little bit going, you are possibly the best you will ever be, with very, very minor guidance and rule lines, because you're acting purely out of intuition. You don't know what you don't know. You're going, you're aggressive, you're excited, you're happy, and you're making sure. And how did you make? You don't know. You don't know how you made the right call. You don't know how you did the close. You didn't know that you were looking them in the eye. You didn't know that you were setting the strap. You didn't know you were manipulating the right blade to the left. You didn't know that guiding them through and then making them feel comfortable and bonding to you. You didn't know all those important, incredible sales techniques. You didn't know them, but you did them. This matters. This here, as relates to this education moment, matters. You did them. You didn't know what you were doing. You did it. Somebody else breaks it down. Somebody else studies you. Somebody else deconstructs. They can tell you all the things you did. And if somebody did so and gave you the honor of putting you up and doing a little speech and talking about you, you'd be like, well, I didn't know. I guess I just did it naturally. Absolutely. It's absolutely what you did. You did it naturally out of intuition. Phenomenal. I tell you true, the extent to which I could trap people here, most salespeople, I wish I could lock them right in that slot. By the way, the natural athlete, the exceptional athlete, does a huge amount of what he does by intuition. The great craftsman, the incredible artisan, the great trim carpenter began out of... Here's the next step, and I do not have a correct word for it. In the furniture, they call it owner's office. In car dealerships, they call it dealer plates. And other types of sales, real estate, they'd say you got your broker license. Pardon the tape on the back. What that means is not that you became the owner, it's not that you became the dealer. Phase 2 is when you decide you know what you know. You become a little bit arrogant. You become a little cocky. You start to, and here is the death of most salespeople. You start to prejudge. You start to pre-qualify. Somebody walks in the door and you already know what's right about them, you already know what's wrong about them. You have learned too much. You have learned enough. You have inhibited your intuition. You have learned enough. You have inhibited your instinct. Your natural intuition, natural instinct, the things that you used to just do. That the guy deconstructing you would have said, and you'd be, oh, I just kind of did it. You don't now, because you've learned little tricks, you've learned little things, you've learned little nodules, and you have started to block those. What you would have intuitively done here, you don't, because you know better now. And the funny thing is, if you're doing little measures, you may really be a star at this. But you used to be here on everything, and now you're a star here, but you've dropped here, and you've dropped here, and you've dropped here. Your hole is poor. Your sales have gone down. You know too much. Here's the hard part. You can't go back. You cannot, at this stage, forget what you've learned. No matter how hard you want to, you can't go back to that pure, natural, raw talent. So now we get into stage 3. And stage 3 is a skilled professional, the skilled pro, the person who watches these tapes, the person who reads the books, the person that buys Zig Ziglar, the person that studies Closes by Tom Hopkins, or whatever your sales placement is, the person that is constantly learning and getting better, that sheer discipline, training, structure, framing of mind, learns the techniques, learns the rules, and how to apply them. The skilled pro. Just went to a basketball game last night and watched him play. I'll use example, Derek Fisher, the guy that you still bring back even though he's well past his better years because of his pure experience. Because as a ball player who was here and was only okay here, got through here fast and learned, I'm going to study, I'm going to be disciplined, I'm going to learn, I'm going to teach, I'm going to do, and became a very skilled pro. Here's a crazy thing, serious crazy thing. If I had, and I mean, they have to be perfect apples. This is hard to prove. Perfect apples. And I got, oh heck, we'll just say 2 of them. Exact same ones, different stages though. And I put apple 1, apple 2, send them out. Exact same apples, like a time capsule clone thing. Apple 1 will probably outsell apple 2. He won't have as happy a clients. He won't be as satisfied. You keep him going for a long term, and let's assume we can keep him locked into here and this doesn't ever plued in. He won't outperform because of the referrals, satisfied clients, stuff like that, because intuition doesn't teach you that stuff. But pure sales, he will outperform him. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that nuts? It's that, again, watch the game, so I'm using it. It's that basketball player that comes in, this little punk. I mean, my team is so, ooh, this is what we're, relatively speaking. I used to love to watch the Talking Heads and ESPN and Fox Sports. All they were studying and break them down, and had love sitting around and talking to the guys over some chicken wings and, oh, this is better, you know, where you don't even need to play the game because we've already figured it out. And we all do. It's fun, especially when you're young and aggressive. It's a lot of fun to do with the guys. And I'll never forget, you always get them, and the Talking Heads get in there like, well, that young team, they got a lot of talent, they're really raw, but, you know, they haven't learned, and where they're going against the great veterans and the learned, skilled pros and that wiliness and all that playoff experience, and they're going to take down those giant, oh, you know, this one might have the better talent, but they're going to beat them just off of what they know. And I'm like, yeah, those young cocky guys, it's going to be the superstar, the pro that's going to do it. I'm always wrong. I always agree with them when I change my mind. They always lost. I mean, it happens once in a blue moon. You want to say, oh, well, the Miami Heat last year against the Thunder, going back to a basketball reference. Bullcorn, man. That was the more talented, deeper team sitting in Miami that were crazy young. Just because they've been in the league a long time. These are not old, wore-out veterans here, people. with a lot of bench players contributing. Anybody remember the no-name dude? Because I don't remember his name, that came off the bench and won the games for them. It was crazy. Talent still, ultimately, how great this Raw is going to impact a lot. But the perfect example for me, and I cannot remember the team they played, and I wish I could. And for those of you that don't know, there's no team I hate more in the world than the Dallas Cowboys. Have my whole life. No real reason other than just fun. Mostly because everybody crammed the Cowboys down my throat as a young child, so I rebelled. But I hate the Dallas Cowboys. And so when they were up and coming, they had just started, because I loved it. I loved it when Jerry Jones, or whatever his name is, took over and they stunk and they had the 1-11 year and they weren't very good the next. But then all of a sudden, all this young talent started to coalesce, and they were cocky and they were arrogant and they were playing loose and from intuition as much as anything and just tearing it up. And I remember they made it to the Super Bowl, which was, how did they get there? And all the talking heads are, whoever the team they were going to play was going to whoop them and all the skill and the intuition. I was, yeah. Especially because I hated the Cowboys. Young guys, they're going to have to learn. I'll never hold it. Cowboys killed them. First day of my life, sitting there watching those jerks tear them up. They just shredded them. The next year, I got lucky. They did it again the next year. It was horrible. Horrible. Worst few years of my life watching them. But, I got to have a couple great ones beforehand, so it all panned out. This has play. All right? This has play as well. Here's the hardest part. I love this word in modern day vernacular. It's trash, but I love it. It goes back to a Phil Jackson thing. There is a fourth. Very few people reach it. I'm going to call it Zen Master because I think it's funny to call it a Zen Master. True mastery. True exceptional. True holy cow. How did the guy get there? And it is when, and I'm going to try to keep this short because I've gone too long. It is when you have been this long enough and you've continued to work on it long enough. It has become so ingrained in you that all of a sudden you achieve a new level and you're able to start integrating this back in. And when the skilled pro can pull intuition and instinct in, when he can play loose and free, when he can go with all the incredible skill sets, absolutely acting out all these incredible learned, disciplined skill sets, abilities, to the point he doesn't even know exactly how he's doing it anymore. She is a true master. She is true. To stick with the fun basketball metaphor, anybody that watched LeBron James in the championship last year, would have been 2012, knows what I'm talking about. Guy came into the league, amazing natural skill. Got a little bit arrogant, cocky, overconfident, knew too much. And it's like, he's going to wait. Stunk for a while. Did the big jump over to Miami. Now it's going to be, and they weren't that good. And they finally started to work together as a team, and it started to click. He didn't make it overnight, but it looked like he did. He started to make this transition. And if you watch it and you're a sports fan, you like to say, that's finally the man we've been looking for. Because in those finals, there were games where he stepped up. He had the sporter. He had the little white dude coming off the bench, nailing threes, killing us, who I'm a jerk, just because I'm a homeboy. LeBron elevated it, man. Defensively, he elevated it. He did a Michael Jordan. He put the team on his shoulders. He carried them. He played at a different level. It was unconscious. It was insane. It was superstar skill, played, as they like to say, unconsciously, without thinking, totally flying. Anybody with me here? For you West Coasters, anybody ever watch Kobe Bryant? when he had his days where he just cut it loose, where those years of incredible talent and experience, because he could score like Mad Young, but it didn't all come together, came through and he did that? You ever watch The Pro? That quarterback, so many quarterbacks die here. They come and it's like, oh, that guy's amazing. Cameron, what's his name, a couple years ago, for those of you watching. It's amazing. That's always stinks. A lot of them never make it even to this point. But do you remember, can you go back, can you study the great Peyton Manning and watch his transition? It holds. Can you think of the salespeople you admire? Can you think of the businessmen you admire? Can you think of the parents? I'll give you one last one and I'm going to shut up. Can you remember the Christian? Can you remember the excited, new life, salvation, all is good, I have to tell the world, that turns into the legalistic, judgmental, really struggling? Many die here, duh. But then became that deep, loving, grasping, wise, wonderful person. And every once in a while, and Zen might not work for you as a Christian, but that Christian that's a whole different level. Quite often, it's the women that you know. They will often make that transition better. Don't know why. In every aspect of life. We don't see it in the sports metaphor as much because of the physical attribute of it. Not if trying to offend anybody, it's just true. But that amazing Christian that takes it to that sainthood level. And that was for my Catholic friends. Same thing goes in sales. Where are you? Because I promise you, very, 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 very few of you are watching me here. And if you are, you're transitioning rapidly to here. Some of you are here, and I'm trying to add to your skill set, and I hope I did so today. Most of you are stuck here. And you're either about to quit, or you're about to transition, or, and this is what happens the most, and this is fascinating, most of you don't want to accept this, but it's true, you have found another aspect of a job to do that's more important. You have found a management level or a side note, or I do the ad, or I clean this, or I organize that. You found something to do other than sales to supplement your purpose and your job and your role. And you take the little freebies that come in and you say that, oh, I'm only doing 5 instead of 14 like I should be because my time's tied up here, and you found another role to fill the gap, which enables you to stay stuck here without truly quitting for decades. I challenge you, shuck that off, learn the discipline, accept the blinders you've got setting on, accept the legalism, to use the Christian metaphor again, that you've set upon yourself. Master, master, study, study, go, go, go. And try to find a way to blend and make it to the absolute top. Thank you much. I love teaching this one. I hope you got something out of it. Have a great day.